everyone, and welcome to this week's DevRel Deep Dive. This week, I am joined, as usual, by my colleague Sebastiaan. Hello, Sebastiaan.
Hello.
And then I think for the first time in a deep dive, we're excited to be joined by the head of the CMS, and arguably you should have been with us a lot earlier. Hello, Andy.
Hello, Lotte. Thanks for inviting me.
You're very welcome. You're always welcome, by the way. If there's anything you want to talk about, just let us know. This week, we are going to talk about not one, but two Umbraco releases that has come out recently, because we actually failed to do a video on 17.2. And then someone asked when the video was coming out. I was like, good point. So today we're going to be talking about both 17.2 and 17.3, which came out recently. And there's actually quite a lot to talk about. So I'm going to suggest I shut up and I ask Andy to share his screen and give us a demo of some of the demoable things that we want to talk about. And then we're going to go through a few PRs afterwards. So over to you, Andy.
Sure. Okay, thank you. Yeah, and as you said, there is quite a bit we could talk about. We're trying to, put a lot of focus into the minors. We're kind of very conscious that people are now moving from 13 to 17. So, if they do find issues or we do find things we can polish and improve, we are trying to put quite a bit of focus on that. So, yeah, there's quite a few things going in the minors. So if you look at the release notes, you'll see, a lot of issues getting closed and a lot of PRs going in. But yeah, in terms of sort of easily visible things to show, I just point out a few of the kind of back office polish things that we've done. One nice little feature is, I think, user group descriptions. We're all used to administrators, editors, writers. We kind of know what they mean. But if you have a big site and you've created lots of different user groups, maybe the name's not really enough to understand what's in there. So you now get a nice description that you can manage on each user group. So we populate this for the built-in ones for new installs, but for upgrades, we leave them blank just because we don't know what you might have changed, because editors may not mean what it does mean for a new install once you've changed the users and things that are in there. So
that sounds a very, very sensible decision. This is one of those things that I'm like, oh, did we not already have this?
Yeah, well, it just goes to show we do look right the way to the end of the list of discussions on GitHub, because I think this was probably on the last page. It was probably a 4-digit issue number. So they don't get lost completely, even if they do slip down the list a little bit. Okay, so another one that's actually been requested for a while that we picked up in the, I think this was in 17.2, is when you have a multilingual site and you want to link to a page that's of a different language, which can happen. You're on your your language site, but you want to link back to the English page for some reason. You can see here I can pick between now which language I want to pick to. So I'm on the English site, and if I want to, I can choose to pick the Italian page or vice versa. And this works through the picker, works through the RTE, and then it's rendered as you'd expect, whether you're using templating, rendering, or the delivery API. Okay, another thing, this is one going back to XSL, can't never say it, XSLT days. You had more options really for choosing when you're navigating between nodes. So we have the feature called Dynamic Node now, which has a lot of features, but one thing it didn't have was the ability to go all the way up to the content tree and back down again. So in this case, I've got a blog post picker, and you can see I can now pick from any of the blog posts, which are actually kind of up right the way to the content node and back down here and in here. And this is...
So you couldn't kind of go outside of your part of the tree.
Exactly. You could only get to the root of your, of the kind of, the route you're in, if you see what I mean. And this just comes from another origin. So we now have the option of content route as well here. So previously you only had root, as I say, which would take you to your root node. Content route will take you all the way to the top, so you can kind of come back down again. So in this case, I've gone all the way to the top, and I found the nearest descendant that matches the article list to find the right ones to pick from.
Well, that's very nice.
Especially, I mean, I know we're adding a new section soon called Library, but for those of us who have been building our own top-level content node called Library for years of all the shared content across the site, yes, this is going to now enable you just to be able to go and pick things from that kind of generic shared place to put content. Nice one. Thanks.
Exactly.
Thanks, CMS team.
Okay. Another one. it's a small thing, but it's on this page actually, is you can now create document types, or more likely element types, that don't have any tabs or groups. So if you're just creating something that's just got 2 or 3 properties that you're using, for a kind of nested content style editor experience, you now don't have to create that deep structure with tabs and groups if you don't want to. I think this was also a migration issue. I think you could do this in earlier versions of Umbraco. So when we see some content being migrated, we want to make sure, obviously, that we can retain the experience in Umbraco 17.
Yeah, in the olden days, we used to have a generic area. No, maybe
That's
it's
right.
even.
Yeah.
Is that a generic one?
That really is olden days, Seb. Stop showing your age.
Yeah, it's effectively that, but it's now just hidden away. So if you don't want the tabs or groups, then you appear there.
That's cool.
Okay. I have something here just on when we're moving or duplicating content. So if I, for example, go to a blog post and I decide I want to move this, the change now is you can see everything is grayed out apart from the place where you're allowed to drop it. And we didn't have that previously. You could drop it anywhere, and then the API would say, sorry, you can't put it here. And then the user would get an error back. So it wasn't really a very friendly experience. You had to kind of, well, if you didn't know, you had to kind of experiment to find what would be accepted or not. But now we kind of find all the places you're allowed to drop it and use that to render this picker so that we gray out everything where it's not allowed. So yeah,
I'm curious, was the reason why we didn't have that previously just it was more work to implement it, or was there kind of a good reason that we didn't?
No, really just more work, as you said. We need now to know what are the valid places we're allowed to drop this. So we need to know what the allowed children are for this particular node that we're sorry, what the allowed parent is rather for the particular node we're trying to copy. So there's now an extra API call that we make. So we can find that out when we open this picker, and we can gray out the things that are not allowed.
This it seems to make a lot of sense. Like, nice.
Yeah. This is a small, but again, very nice thing. This came from a community contribution. So if I upload an image now, you see I've got my exciting test images. We now populate the name by default, which again is something I never noticed we didn't do, but we didn't. It was blank, and you had to then go in and edit it. So this was, I forget, sorry, let me just remember the contributor's name.
Sang.
That's right, Fasang provided this one. And we're seeing, I think, more contributions now. These sort of smaller things, I think how people are getting a bit more used to the back office. Maybe there are some AI tools out there these days that help you, but people are finding not just to report a problem, but they're able to kind of go in and try and fix them too. It's really nice to see.
For sure. Yeah.
I think as well at this point of the LTS release, people are sort of confident that if we haven't done it, it's probably because we didn't realize we needed to do it. Whereas I think sort of during the 15, 16 releases, it's sort of like, well, HQ are working on things so much and things are moving that I just don't know really what I can do. Whereas now it's please, any improvements, contributions.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great to see that it's happening.
Yeah, there's not much being held back. I mean, we are working on things for 18. I know it's not a topic of today, but the library section you mentioned is one of them, the global elements. But, really anything else we find that we can improve the product, it's going into 17 unless we, really have a breaking changes reason why we would have to hold it back. So pretty much what you see on the latest version, is what's there. And so if you can find improvements, then they're very welcome. So this was another small one, just showing here that now the card view and the list view are completely aligned, whether you're using this on content or you're using this on images, on media rather. So you've always had these entity actions here, but now they're also available within the card. So you can completely choose whatever makes most sense for the visual display. You haven't got to choose, okay, I need this functionality, so I need to use a particular type of display.
Previously, I think you needed to do the checkbox there on the top left of the image, and then you could do the actions, maybe?
You still need this for the bulk actions.
Oh, no, there's different actions,
Yeah.
I see.
So you have the bulk actions down here, but the entity actions, as we call them, on the individuals. Yeah. Although you have to untick before you can get back to them.
Fair enough.
Which I guess makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's cool. And the plus icon there. Oh, that's just the first one. So that's create.
So these line up with what you get here. The plus is always.
I can't remember what those are called. It's the default
entity actions. It would be the default entity action, exactly, which is normally create, but it doesn't have to be. Clearly, if you can't create, it would be the top one in the list.
Lovely.
Okay. And I think it's just one more just to show the result of. This is one that I think the two of you actually raised as a request, which was to use central package management when we are creating new. And I've realized I've only shared my window, so 2 seconds. Let me just.
Yeah, this came out of an exploration we were doing on Umbraco Cloud with a new site we're building, and we realized that the recommended way of doing package management was actually has been for a while in the .NET world, is to do it centrally in one file, which is the directory packages.props, where all of your versions live. So they're always all the same for each project that is using them.
Yeah, exactly. So now the package template, if you do .NET New Umbraco, you will get this by default to use central package management. There is a switch. I think it's PM if you want to go back to the per project setting. But the default now will be to use central package management. And clearly for a single project, it doesn't make a huge amount of difference because, you've only got these references in one place. But the idea is once you start to add class libraries and other projects, you can move this file up to your root. And then the CS.proj files just reference the packages. They don't have to reference the version number as well. And then, as you say, Seb, when you do an upgrade, you haven't got to remember to update the version in multiple places and risk running mixed versions and that type of thing.
The number of support requests I've seen where this has happened.
Yeah, and as you say, for a single
easy to
project,
mess
it
up,
doesn't
yeah.
it doesn't make any difference. But I think a lot of people now, especially because your back office extensions are likely to be done in a separate project. When we joined .NET Core, everyone just put everything in the same project. We don't need separate projects. But we've gone back to having really good reason for having separate projects, and therefore giving people the easy way to just drag this file up a level rather, and then centralize the versions. Good plan, even though it did cause a little bit of kerfuffle for Cloud, I understand. So I think that's why you keep crediting me and Seb, Andy,
Exactly.
because it was
really
them.
your fault for causing that problem. Yeah.
Sorry, Cloud team.
It was just they used the .NET New templates for spinning up new cloud projects.
Yeah.
So there was something that was expecting it to be the old way and not the new way. So
Yeah.
But as I said, we provide the switch to
a-
go back to the old way, so it wasn't too hard
It's
to
funny
fix.
because Lotte and I discussed it beforehand. I'm like, oh no, but we've been auto-upgraded on Cloud a few times, and they just update that file, the central package file, so it should just work. But of course, spinning up a new project on Cloud, they didn't have that yet. So fair enough.
I think I'm learning to never say the phrase "should just work." Thank you very much, Andy. Sebastiaan, I think, is now going to share his screen and show us some PRs that we think we'd like to have a quick chat about.
We have I have a tab group here for management API updates. A lot of optimizations seem to have been done.
Yeah, I think across the board, really, a lot of performance updates we've made over the last couple of releases. Again, this comes out mostly of people migrating. Mostly it goes well, but sometimes they find something that's not working quite as it was in 13, or maybe not as performantly as it was in 13. And we always got to remember that a load of stuff has changed. It's not just a new back office. There's new APIs, a lot of new service layers, and that type of thing. So again, if we hear about these types of things, we want to get on and try and solve them quickly. So I can maybe talk about a few of these if you want to go back to the first one you had there. So this is on collection views, the thing we were just looking at, where you see a list of media items or a list of documents. We had some cases where we had some kind of N+1 patterns, so where we're making updates for every item in the list. Not necessarily a full network call, but maybe getting something extra from the database. So I think one example would be when you have protected content, we have a little flag to indicate that, and we were kind of checking, are you protected for each one? But much better, we know we're going to get a page of 50 items, get them in bulk, and then apply them in bulk. So it's quite a few, of optimizations there that just make the collection view pages render more quickly.
Yep.
What's next? Okay, so this was an interesting one. We have caches for URLs and aliases. So basically, every document that has a URL gets cached, so we can find that quickly when we're routing content or when we're rendering a navigation or whatever it might be. But we store them up to now per language, even if the document itself is invariant, so it doesn't vary by language.
Right.
Now, for a lot of sites, that's not really a problem because you either have a single language site anyway, so per language is just one record, and that's fine, or you have multi-language in the kind of way we sort of promote you to do it now with Umbraco, where you have, a single, use the vary by culture settings and that type of thing. But you don't have to do it that way. Kind of the old way in Umbraco, and still perfectly valid, I think, is to have multiple root nodes, and each root node has a language. And in that case, we had this kind of cross-join going on where each document, even though it was invariant, was stored once per language. If you have 10 languages, then it's going to be 10 times the storage that you need, slower to look up, more memory usage, that type of thing. So we've optimized this. There's a migration that runs, and obviously we change how we store the data now. So invariant records just have one record, as you'd expect, and then the ones that are truly multi-language do have a URL per language. So again, as I say, less storage, less memory, a bit quicker.
Yeah. Very good.
Okay. Okay, so this is another good one. So as you can see, Ken's been working on this one. It's around when you make a change to a schema item, so something like a document type, and you save it. You'll be aware that the spinner spins for a little while because behind the scenes, it's actually rebuilding a lot of the content cache.
Sure.
And this can particularly be an issue, with cloud or with deployment tools, because then you're not just updating one document type, you might be updating many of them. And there's a lot of this rework going on. So what we've done here is partly just optimizing the time it takes. But the main change is just to only do it more sensibly when we really need to do it. I think in the past, Umbraco's had a bit of a tendency perhaps of saying, something's changing. Let's make sure everything is updated and refreshed so we're completely back in sync before anything else happens. But, little things like changing the description of a document type, that's not going to affect your content. Nor is it adding a property or adding a composition, because clearly those properties can't be used yet. So there's no need to update. So it's actually, in terms of the changes that you have to do, it's actually quite a small number of the changes you could do to a document type. So it's only if you remove a property or you rename a property or you remove a composition that we actually have to update the content. So now we're smarter about it, basically. We only do these updates when you need to. So you should find, both in the back office when you're saving a document type, or if you're doing a deployment in cloud that only adds properties, which is common. If you're adding a new feature, you're usually not removing things. These things should go through much more quickly and just be a bit more reliable and robust.
I like it. I'm now going to think about whether I'm doing destructive or constructive work. Were those were the two options?
I think we used them structural and non-structural in the end, but it was a destructive and constructive.
I like to think everything I do is constructive, to be honest. But yes, I get the distinguish.
That was one of the things that came out in review. Maybe we should use something slightly less. I'm hoping everything you do is constructive. But
well, me too. But
Okay. This one is around a theme of just trying to make the calls from the back office to the API a bit less chatty. So this was an example when you have a block editor. If you imagine you've got lots of different blocks with lots of different element types, we have to retrieve a number of those element types and a number of data types in order to render the block list. But we know we're going to need them all. So rather than doing one request for each one, we now get all the document types and all the data types that we need in one go. So just a bit less network traffic going on, and it renders quicker and improvement in that sense.
Yeah, that's super nice.
And this is a similar thing, really. This is just, again, just being a bit smarter. If you scroll down a little bit, there's a good picture on it or screenshot on here. So here there's like some pickers, and a lot of them have picked the same thing. And in that case, what previously would happen is we would request them all, individually. So not individually, but we would get if we'd already got 1, 2, 3, and then we need to get number 2 again, we would go and get it again. But now it's smart enough to realize I've already got that. I don't need to go and get it. And again, just reducing the network traffic from the back office.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
So that we now only get 6 items instead of 12 items.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
That's very good. Yep. Lovely.
Okay. Okay, that's the end of the performance one. So okay.
Yeah.
All right, so this is really just one to call out if you're upgrading. I think it's very unlikely anyone's going to run into this, but we had there's a security issue raised on, I think it was actually on MimeKit, which is something that MailKit depends on, and Umbraco depends on MailKit. So in order to avoid having a vulnerable dependency that we ship with, we've upgraded to the latest MailKit, so the latest minor version, but it did have a few breaking changes in it. It was all around nullability, return types being null when they didn't used to be, or vice versa.
Yeah.
So we found that in Umbraco itself, and we had to fix a few things. It wasn't a big deal, but it just means that if anyone is using these dependencies directly, then they may run into those same things. If you're using Umbraco's abstraction of email sending, this is a library that helps with email functionality, then you won't be affected. So it's, as I say, it's pretty unlikely, but it's one of those ones where we have to trade off being, strictly SEMVer versus, there is a vulnerability in this, and we need to make sure that we update the LTS to have the fixed version.
You will notice this when you build your project.
Exactly. You get a compiler, it's fairly obvious.
And there's always one person who will have done the thing that we think, well, no one will have done it. So, yes.
That's why we're talking about it.
Exactly.
I should just mention, actually, we do call these things out on the release notes. So there's a big list of PRs, but there's also at the top of, we're careful to kind of pull out. And on the PR itself, exactly. Yeah.
Very good. Another notable one here.
Yeah, this is worth mentioning as well. Notice this is for new installs, so this isn't something that's ever going to affect an existing site. But we have this setting you can apply, the HMAC secret key, and it's used basically to provide like a hash signature to all your image requests. That means you can't be attacked via a kind of denial of service attack, where someone requests lots and lots of images of all different sizes from your website, fills up your cache, that type of thing. So we've always recommended that you use this. It's kind of called out in the documentation. It's something you should apply to your sites. So I would say if you are upgrading, it's definitely worth putting that in. But to be more secure by default, for new installs now, we're going to create this automatically. So it works a bit like when the connection string is generated. And I think we also generate a unique ID for every product that gets written to your app settings JSON. You'll now get this HMAC secret key written as well. Yeah.
So on a new install, that will now be in the app settings.
You'll find that in the app settings. Exactly.
A uniquely generated.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
HMAC is not a thing I am aware of, other than seeing it around this PR and the odd problem that people have had as a result. But I like the phrase "secure by default," Andy. Yes, please.
That's
very good. We were talking about this earlier, and you said something about it. It would be good to have these the same across environments.
Yeah, that's what we document. And the idea, as I understand it, is that you might have these generated URLs saved into your content in your rich text editor, for example. And then if you're using a workflow where you promote content from staging to live, obviously that link would not work if the HMAC key was different in the upstream site. If you're not doing that, then they could be different as far as I can tell. It's but we say make them the same across environments so you can support that workflow.
That's good. And as always, you can set these things as secrets as well, so you don't have to have them in your app settings necessarily.
Yeah, and you should do ideally. I think we would same as it's not best practice to put your connection string in there. Exactly. It's the same with this, really.
Yep. Lotte is smirking. What is that?
No, I know best practice. Of course, I know it's best practice. But there's also pragmatic practice, which is something I implement quite a lot.
Happens.
Okay.
Cool. And the last one.
Do you want to talk about this, Lotte? I think you maybe.
Oh yes, no. This one I was. I'm not sure I have met David actually, but I was just really I was really intrigued to see this. Well, first of all, I enjoyed the fact that someone was apologizing for not following good open source practice and acknowledging that they were just opening a PR, hadn't really read our contribution guidelines, etc., etc. And I think, oh, that's a bit entitled, until you go and see it's someone from the actual .NET team who had they had a couple of issues raised on their project, and in investigating them had realized it's actually something that we needed to fix rather than them. And bless them, instead of just giving that back to the person who raised their issue, he jumped onto our repository and raised a PR to fix it for us. So I think that's quite cool that someone from the .NET team has contributed back to the Umbraco project, because they knew exactly what we needed to fix. And as ever, the easiest way then is to fix it yourself. So thank you very much, David. And we forgive you for just jumping in and contributing to our project. And I guess he'll be appearing in the first ever contributors section.
Yeah, thank you much. Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, I don't really know what this is about. Do we need to talk about it other than
It's actually quite handy. If you set a breakpoint in your Razor files, it didn't work previously. You could only set breakpoints in C# files in your controllers or something like that. But now it does. So you can set a breakpoint and you can step through and then step into your server-side code.
I mean, hopefully you don't have much server-side code in your Razor templates, obviously, because that's not what I call best practice.
That's not best practice, is it? Yeah.
But we all know we do. So, because pragmatism wins. So cool.
Also good for debugging your ifs analysis.
Yeah.
Nice.
Excellent. I think we got to the end of the list.
Yes, I think so.
Too.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I hope everyone has enjoyed feeling now they're up to date with the 17.2 and 17.3. When is 17.4 coming out, Andy? You know everything off by heart.
6 weeks after the last one.
Excellent answer. That. Well done.
No, I think we're building next week, which means we'll release the RC. Week, The RC is on the 30th of April. And
30th of April, which basically means if you've got a PR sitting in draft or you're thinking about it, you've got till the end of April. Well, you need to be before the end of April. We need to have reviewed it, don't we? So hurry up. If you've got a pull request that you're planning for the CMS, hurry up and submit it, and then maybe it'll make it into 17.4. What is making it into 17.4 that we can interest people in?
Yeah, there's a few things worth talking about, perhaps. So one thing we're working on is website output caching. So this is always something you can do in Umbraco, but it's not easy. You've got to kind of figure out where in the post pipeline, you put it and register some components and this type of thing. Whereas for the delivery API, it's quite nice and easy. You just set a configuration value. So we want to try and do that for your server-side rendered template-based websites as well. Just to be able to go into config, say, turn this on, set a default duration, and then have enough extension points so you can control the invalidation of the cache. So, I mean, you could just use it quite simply, set like a 10-second cache. Your editors would just know they have to wait around for 10 seconds for the updates to appear. And that would still be useful, because if you get a burst of traffic, that protects you against those spikes. But it's nice to be smarter about it. So we'll have some defaults where if you publish the page, it will clear the cache. If you publish descendants, if you publish an ancestor, it'll clear all the descendants. If you publish a page that is referenced by another page on a picker, it'll clear that cache. And you'll even be able to do things that we don't know about, but you would. So, for example, if you've got a category page for blog posts and you publish a blog post, there's nothing really linking those two things apart from the template, because the template renders the top 5 blog posts in the category, for example. So every time you want to publish a blog post, you also want to publish the category page as well. So you better create those links. So that way, when your editors are working, they'll still see things immediately. But in theory, you could set quite a long cache time and take a lot of, reduce the resources on your server for serving your Umbraco site.
Cool.
Yeah. Other things, there's a couple of nice PRs gone in for like MCP support, so the Model Context Protocol. I'm sure everyone's seen the demos that Phil and Matt have been doing about all the things you can do via an LLM to get update your Umbraco site. There's a couple of things it struggled with. One is, very fine updates. Just add a blog post into this property. Sorry, add a new block into this property with these property values. Currently, the LLM has to basically post the whole document model. So it's got to construct all of that, even though it's only updating one part of one property. So we've created effectively a patch endpoint that allows you to say, okay, I just want to make this one update to this one property or this one property within a block structure. So the LLM can be much less likely to make mistakes when it's making updates like that. And then the other way is the other way around, that it now has the ability to query the JSON schema that it needs to post to update a property value. So like a text string is just a string, that's easy, but a block structure is kind of complicated. There's layout and expose and all these things. So now the LLM is able to get that data to understand, okay, this is the format that I need to send the data in. Whereas previously it had to just figure it out somehow. It managed that, but it should be able to do it a lot more accurately when we get these updates.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
yes, and this is the Matt Brailsford has released a blog post about 17.4 is the release to make AI happy, and we'll put a link to that in the show notes, because obviously it'll come with Matt Brailsford style doodles as well. So I imagine. I haven't read it yet. I will, Matt, promise.
I think the last one I just mentioned, this is still going through review, so no guarantees this will get in, but we have, it comes up every now and then about when you've got many, many members in Umbraco, or you've got a very high traffic site using Umbraco members. And, truth be told, Umbraco members are quite heavy things because they're based on content. And that's great in some senses, you get all the content stuff for free. You can add properties, you can use all block lists, whatever you want on your members if you've got the reason to do that. But oftentimes you don't need to do that, and it's a kind of very heavyweight way of storing a member. So we'll maybe say, okay, you've outgrown Umbraco members, that's fine, use an external service. But the trouble is we still create a member in Umbraco to match the one that's on the external service. So it doesn't really help to say, go off and use something that's more suited for a really high traffic member site. So what we're looking to do is introduce what we're calling I'm calling, probably get a better name when it's released, lightweight external members. So rather than creating a full content item, we'll just create a single record that we need for the security stamp and things like that. Right. And we much quicker, much easier, much less effort much less resources needed for storing these members and working with them.
That sounds a very good idea.
Sorry, as you say, you'll obviously forego the ability to add content, but if you're using external member service, you probably don't want to do that anyway. So you're managing everything externally, and we just store in Umbraco the minimal needed to support the member functionality.
Do we have any idea, and I think probably the answer is going to be no, but how many people do actually use the out-of-the-box Umbraco membership system? I know, it's been there forever. I wonder how many people use it, because I get the impression more and more people do use external ways of managing it. But I've still got a few sites that use membership quite happily. It's very easy. It's so easy to set up, and it's so just part of the same configuration as everything else that I never wanted the extra overhead of having to think, where else should I keep them? But I was just wondering if we have any insights as to what people are doing. But
I've definitely seen people using external services more and more for this type of thing. But I'm sure it's still used a lot. I don't think we have telemetry on that. I think it's really just a case of, you judge by the support requests and the feedback and the discussions and things that come off these things. And I definitely see plenty for members.
Well, I tell you what, if you're listening and you use membership, let us know how you use it. Pop onto the Umbraco Discord server and
let me just say that, Andy, where were you when we were outgrowing the membership on our Umbraco and we had to move to a different type of forum software?
Yeah.
Oh,
well, exactly.
The old,
these things
the old
do
forum
tend to
was
grow.
in,
Yeah. The number of problems I've had with members because we have at some point we didn't have any spam protection, so we had about 200,000 in air quotes members in that database forever. Luckily, they didn't all log in very much, but there was some pains there.
Yeah. I mean, it's not to say for a small to medium site, it still works just fine. I mean, registering, which is creating content, that only happens once. It's not a huge deal. Login is already quite well optimized.
For sure.
But, if you really are coming to us saying, we want to have, 50 concurrent members registering, then probably modeling that as content is not the best thing to do. And that's what this is trying to solve.
And our Umbraco was still based on Umbraco 7 and not highly optimized, let's say that.
Yeah, don't think we'll be backporting it to their sub, sorry.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Andy. That was really helpful. Thank you for joining us and sharing all of that. As I say, you are welcome back whenever you'd like to.
Yeah, sure. Maybe get a different face next time. But...
And the usual way we finish of saying like, subscribe, hit a bell, that sort of thing.
Something like that.
Excellent. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time. Cheers, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.